Building belonging in community. As you know by now, the theme this month is building belonging, and this is the first sermon that I did earlier in the month. The one that you saw in the recording was all about belonging to all the parts of ourselves so we could bring our authentic self into the world. And this is certainly the kind of place that we expect you to bring your authentic self. So this one's more about, in fact, it is about this congregation. Building belonging in open circle is really what the title could be. When I first thought about it, I thought, what are my examples, world examples, lived examples of building belonging? And the first one that popped into my mind was something in the corporate world that I was a part of probably a decade ago. To be cynical, I think we just had a major layoff. And so there was kind of shell shock. So they hired some consultant to come in and do all this testing of all of us and our personality styles and what we did. And then the results came out in this very slick program. So in our cafeteria, for example, we had little table toppers, and they had put these life-size decals in every third window, and these were life-size tall windows in the cafeteria. And what they exhibited were these really polished, cool-looking figures of an image of supposedly what you were. So, for example, if you were the dreamer or the thinker, they would always be these young-looking hip people with this bubble coming out of their head, right? Kind of thing. And I think the tinkerer was sort of the engineer and had a wrench in their hand. And then there was the leader and the analyzer and the consensus builder. And the whole idea was that you were supposed to have conversations about this over lunch and how you fit in. And maybe we had some assemblies, I guess I'll call it that, like in school. But this was the first idea that I had thought of in a mass way of building belonging across employees. So when I first thought of preparing this message, I thought, oh, that'd be really cool. What if I lumped everybody in and how they contribute to Open Circle and come up with a silly name for them? Like these are the Carols and these are the Michaels and these are the Jareds or something like that. I quickly abandoned that idea. I thought you'd see it as a little gimmicky. So then I started thinking about, well, what's a better way to think about building belonging in a fellowship? And a colleague of mine said, well, he uses family systems theory. Now, I'll do an apology or a disclaimer right here because a lot of you are social workers and you're therapists and you're psychologists. So you're deeply immersed in family systems theory. And this is me just tipping my toe into it. But he said that he looks at the congregation through a family systems lens. And particularly, this congregation seems to have more than 20 years of attendance of individuals. And so he would look back and just figure out when people joined and how often they attend and all that. So I think he's more of a data geek than I am. But he found a lot of insight in comparing those different clusters of people. So I thought, okay, how would I do that here? Well, the reason I thought about this family system, I have to step back for a second, and then it makes sense, is because we're different than any other thing that I can think of that you join. So think about it. If you're going to join a club of some sort, or a yoga center, or the Y, where you go work out, or a community service group, a lot of you are help out with the Fondy Food Pantry, or the Rotary. They're all things where you go and you meet other people and you probably build some relationships, but they're probably not quite as deep as here. Because here, when you come here, there's an expectation, I think, or you easily flow into something that's a little bit more vulnerable. You're sharing about something that happened this week. Joys and sorrows, joys and concerns that we share is a public way to do that so that we could all celebrate with you or all hold you when you've got something significantly going on in your family and it's on your heart that day. So we're more vulnerable. Like in a family, we expect you to be authentic, and if anything, just your spiritual journey, every one of us is different. And so often we're sharing where we came from, how we got to be here, what we're thinking about now. And in addition to that, here we covenant to be with each other. I don't think there's any other group out there that you go and make a covenant in how you're going to be with each other, how you're going to hang in there with them when troubles come up. And you're expected to help contribute in whatever way works for you. It's a mutual relationship, just like a family. So my friend's family system way of thinking about it made sense to me. Now, a little background for you academians out there. Murray Bowen, Dr. Murray Bowen, was one of the pioneers of family systems theory. He was an American psychiatrist and a professor of psychiatry at Georgetown University. He was one of the founders of it and a noted founder of systemic theory in the first place, or therapy, excuse me. So family systems theory describes how family members' individual behaviors are shaped by the larger family emotional system. So if you think of Open Circle as a larger family emotional system that we're all involved in every Sunday at least, if not during the year and during the week, we're all impacted by that. And so I was curious to kind of take some of these principles and apply it to here and see what I thought of it. So there's 8 concepts, only 6 I think really applied to what we were talking about. So differentiation of self is one that's important. The theory is that if you have the capacity to remain a separate individual while still being emotionally connected to one's family, it helps balance the need for closeness with interdependence. And I thought, well, I think we've got this one, right? Because you're expected to differentiate. You're expected to show up in your authentic self, but yet you're a part of the group. So we expect yourself, your spiritual beliefs, your spiritual practices, all to be individual, yet we can come together. So I thought, okay, that's a very healthy family structure. Let's move on to another one. This one I liked a lot, sibling position. Mostly because I have this brother that just won't let this up because I'm the oldest and he's the youngest. And so he constantly points out why I act the way I act because I'm the oldest, right? Throws it in my face. So I thought this one was kind of fascinating to talk about here. So how would you think of one's position in the family, whether you're the oldest child, the youngest child, or the middle child, or middle children, in the context of Open Circle? So I thought about it. And a name came to mind immediately for the oldest children, and that is matriarchs. And I mean that in a really loving way, and I don't even mean it to be gender-based. I mean it's the folks, this congregation is only about 20 years old, right? So there's a lot of folks around who helped found it, have helped guide it all this time. So matriarchs, that term, as opposed to patriarch, matriarch tends to be more nourishing, more helping something grow and helping to have it grow in a very healthy way. So I think of the matriarchs as a lot of the folks that really have run the show here for a very long time and are responsible for the environment that we have today. Well, then there's the new wave, I call them. So that would be the youngest children, right? Since COVID, so in the last 4 years or so, we've had a big influx of people, and they tend to be younger. Now, we define younger as under 50, so think about that. But younger in attitude, a different generation. They're not part of the aging baby boomers that are me and everybody older than me. And they come with that new enthusiasm for finding a place like this where they can be their authentic self and express their beliefs differently. And this fellowship in particular has been amazing because they've organized themselves into emerging voices to kind of compare notes, understand their experience here, what they'd like out of Open Circle in the future, and then helping to inform our strategic planning. So that's a very healthy, cool way to be involved. And then there's the middle children. And I, in my head, lumped it, everybody that joined kind of since we got this building until COVID. Now, there's no statistical data for me to figure that out, but it's the folks that once upon a time were the new wave and were very super excited about it and then poured themselves into it and now have stepped back a little bit. Honestly, a lot of them have stepped back because they probably have grandkids in another city that they're visiting more often, or they're the snowbirds that are going down to Arizona in the wintertime. So they're still involved, especially emotionally, but maybe not present as much as before. So that's how I got into sibling positions. The next one, and these are all kind of overlapping, he calls it multi-generational transmission process, which is a lot of psychobabble to me. It's the patterns of behavior, attitudes, and levels of differentiation that are passed down from one generation to the next, creating a consistent family history. And this one I have seen I've been here 7 years, and I've always seen it. And when I'm with other congregations, I always brag about you guys. You got to know that. It's just this culture of generosity that permeates this space. And I don't mean just giving of your time and your treasures, but there's just this feeling when you walk in the door of happiness to see each other, of just pure joy, just this generosity of spirit. I kind of was practicing what I wanted to say today in front of Scott, my husband. He goes, "Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's just joy when you walk in with these people." He goes, "You nailed that one." So I just think that that's this multi-generational transmission process that just comes down. And you've got to understand that it's a lot of other congregations I've served that have this culture of scarcity. And it doesn't mean they don't like being together. It's just a different vibe, and that I don't find here. It's very special. Connected to that, they have this nuclear family emotional process. Now, the description talks about basically how they deal with what can lead to trauma: marital conflict, dysfunction, impairment of the children, emotional distance, that kind of thing. And I thought, no, it's just calm. It's calm. It's just, we talk a lot about living love at the center, or the question I always like is, what is the most loving thing to do? It's just sort of, it's not that disruptions don't happen from time to time. They do, and I'll get into that in the next one. But it's just there's this sense of calm in this fellowship. Now think about an opposite. Think about a congregation that is pretty conservative, has a very strict creed. In the old days, it was the kind of congregation where women had to wear hats and gloves on Easter Sunday, right? Or they'd be looked down on, or they had to always wear dresses or something like that. My experience with those from my previous life was a lot of anxiety walking in. You weren't sure whether you trusted everybody around you. You were kind of cautious. Or I know my mother just lived in fear that she was going to do or say the wrong thing in that environment. And here you have the freedom to be who you are. Now, connected to that is triangles. Now, I think when I hear about triangles, I think of that as a negative term, triangulation, where it means that you're in a conflict with somebody, and instead of addressing it directly, you go to somebody else and you start gossiping about them, and you start building a support structure against that person instead of resolving it in a more healthy manner. The definition, is the smallest stable emotional unit in a family consisting of 3 people. When anxiety or tension is high between 2 people, a third person is drawn in, creating a triangle to diffuse the conflict. That's when it goes right and it doesn't turn into triangulation. I have witnessed that here. I have seen people that, for whatever reason, they're having a bad day, are not getting along. And I remember thinking, well, what's the most loving thing to do in this moment? Or somebody steps in, and often it's one of the matriarchs steps in and helps resolve the conflict. It's a very, very healthy dynamic. And then finally, there's a category called societal emotional process. And this is in there because it's supposed to basically say, take what you see in this family systems theory and apply it to the world outside. Well, I thought of that in this case. The world outside is unhinged right now. And so I think we all come here to find stability, to find calm, to find people that will sit and listen to us, hold our hand when we're feeling a little anxious at this time. And so I think this is our chosen family for that reason. So, in my opinion, I brag about you all the time. Probably my other congregations are sick of me talking about Open Circle, right? But you have an amazingly strong and healthy family system here. And it's unusual, sadly. It needs to be cherished and supported so it can continue to flourish. Now, just related to that, when I was in seminary, we took a class on congregational dysfunction, right? And we did something like this, where there's the roles of all these different individuals and what they play in a system, and it's totally natural. And there was always this joke when the conversation would get a little hard, we go, "You gotta love them all. You're the minister, right?" And so it's true. And so if you think about that, we are a family, and families take work and engagement to thrive. We covenant to hang in there because it's reciprocal. You need me now, and I will need you in the future. And it's a lifelong mutual support and journey. That's what building belonging is all about. And then today, I just want to close with music. So our final hymn, which we're going to flow right into, is my favorite, I think. It's We Laugh, We Cry. And I think most of you are very familiar with it, but we sing the words, and I'm not sure that we pay attention to it's really all about a family. The whole thing is written as if if the congregation or the group that the words are talking about is going through the whole life cycle from birth to death. So I want you to sing it today with that in mind, that this is the chosen family, and whoever wrote that is singing about us. Here's some hints. In verse 1, the whole verse is set up like, hey, it's the new wave of people joining where we have this joy for finding each other. And here's the words. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need close friends we can call our very own. And then there's a line that keeps repeating, but they change one word in the refrain each time. We have found a need to be together. The second verse cherishes birth and the beginning of life and community. And that same line said, okay, now we've found a time to be together. The third verse cherishes a good life lived and the memories of someone who's left us. And it says we have found a place to be together, the significance of this place. And finally, the fourth gets to the core of why we are together, the search for truth, meaning, and it says, blessed peace of mind. I had sung right through that all these years. And it's through belonging that you get the blessed peace of mind. It says, we come together here to make sense of what we find. We have found a joy being together. So with that, I'd like you to rise, and we're going to join right into the hymn as soon as I get the slides set up.